Thank you. Thank you, Landon. Thank you, Leandra. I'm going to start screen sharing, folks, as we get started here. So give me 1 second. There we go. So good morning. This presentation, again, my name is Erin. I'm going to talk a little bit more about what I do in advising here in a moment, but the presentation is intended to answer many of your initial questions, but we will have time at the end. And we do ask that you wait until the end of the presentation to throw those questions into the Q&A so that we can hopefully answer them and anticipate them for you. 1 second. I just want to make sure we've got all of our settings right. There we go. All right, so a little bit about CVAD, the College of Visual Arts and Design. It's helpful for students to know that UNT is made up of a lot of different colleges and schools, each led by a dean. Our dean is currently Mr. Greg Watts. Our associate deans are Dr. Denise Baxter and Eric Ligon, and I'm the director of CVAD advising specifically. And then we also have 4 departments and an art foundations program. These are some other important facts about our college. All the undergraduate degrees are organized by department. We also have a college-wide foundations program, like I mentioned, and that's not in any one department because all of the CVAD majors participate in foundations as part of their degree requirements. It also means that students from all of our majors have the chance to work and learn from each other and build connections across disciplines and perspectives. This is a little bit about our foundations program, in fact, and what kind of assignments you can see students do when they're in majors from everything from ceramics to fashion design. And yes, we look forward to when all of our spaces can safely be filled with students and student work again. Oh, I apologize, friends. Let me try that again. Luckily, it is not long. All right. So now that we've seen a little bit about the foundations program and how our students work together as a college as a whole, let's talk about the specific majors and programs that CVAD offers. So the College of Visual Art and Design has 2 types of baccalaureate degrees or bachelor degrees, Bachelor of Arts and Bachelors of Fine Arts, or BAs and BFAs. They're all 4-year degrees, but the BA degrees are in art history and interdisciplinary art and design studies, IADS. We love our acronyms here, which has 3 tracks or concentrations to choose from. So IADS, open track, design management, and arts management. So the emphasis is a little bit different. Now, while all art and design courses are important requirements for all of our programs, these in the BA require fewer total art courses than BFA degrees and they are open entry. That means for the Bachelor of Arts degree, students can declare these majors and no portfolio or review is required to become a full major. So speaking of pre-majors, for all of the Bachelor of Fine Arts programs, BFAs, they are considered professional degrees, and therefore they require a greater ratio of art and design courses to complete. And students who are interested in any of the BFA programs will begin as pre-majors. You are still making degree progress as a pre-major. You're still working towards finishing your degree. You'll take important required courses such as the University Core, sometimes called General Education or Gen Ed, and the CVAD Foundations classes, which we just talked about, which also prepare you for the review process. Each pre-major has its own type of review. So yes, the reviews vary when they come up, what the requirements are, but though all of them do have GPA thresholds, course requirements, and some kind of a portfolio factor. It's a little bit different for things like art education. We'll get to that. But most importantly, and this is the most important part for incoming students, none of the CVAD programs require a review before you start at UNT. In other words, there is no separate or additional requirement to be admitted to UNT and begin as a CVAD student. You do not submit a portfolio of work as part of the admissions process. We recognize that all students do not have the same access to art courses and opportunities, and we want to make sure that you have the tools that we're looking for to submit that portfolio. So it is not something that you do before you start at UNT. So the BFA programs are, and like I said, each has its own review process, and you can find out more at the CVAD website and on our curriculum guides. But more importantly, academic advisors are available to answer questions about your review process. And we go over the details at orientation. We start right from the beginning, folks. Completing the review process is for each intended degree is an important milestone because you cannot graduate from a pre-major. But like I said, they vary. So art education is a BFA, communication design, which has 2 tracks, graphic design and user experience design or UX, fashion design, interior design, and studio art. Now, studio art has 7 concentrations. So if you've been wondering, where's my major and you hadn't seen it yet, this might help. Students pursuing a BFA in studio art should be aware that the degree is already interdisciplinary and requires courses outside your specific concentration or medium. In other words, just because you're doing drawing and painting doesn't mean you don't get to take some ceramics or photography or printmaking. It just depends on what you want to do there, okay? That means too that students who are interested in multiple areas or who are unsure of choosing just one, good news. You can investigate those and take courses and still be making progress towards graduation. Now, we increasingly see students coming to UNT with early college credits. Now, that's usually AP, but it can be IB or dual enrollment credits. We encourage you to review the information available on our website about admissions and transfer credit, and Leandra is super helpful in this area, and she and I work closely together all the time if you have additional questions. Now, if you're planning on significant early college credits, in other words, you think you're coming in with 18 credits or more, that's usually 5 or 6 classes. Or you're considering a lot of options regarding some early college credit that you might be taking in the next year, I would encourage you to ask us. Students should be aware that while this is a great opportunity, early college credit may not decrease your time to degree. Let me repeat that. Early college credit may not make your degree go any faster. For example, design programs still take 4 years. And while your credits may all be accepted, it may not all apply to your degree in the way you're thinking. and it can limit your choice of classes in the long run, your electives, those kinds of things. In other words, it's great. We love it. There are all kinds of things that we can talk to you about how to plan your early college credit, but also be aware that it's a conversation to start early. Additionally, we have scholarships that, where'd my notes go? We offer numerous scholarships for continuing students in CVAD, and UNT offers scholarships for new and incoming students. So we encourage you to work with the Scholarships and Financial Aid Office as it states there. But remember that CVAD specific scholarships are for continuing students. That means that you have to have been attending for at least a semester. And since most scholarships are awarded for a whole academic year, most of the time that means that students don't receive a CVAD scholarship until they've been attending UNT for a year. Now, it may not be something that's happening at the moment, but CVAD usually and will again offer numerous unique opportunities for students such as study abroad. And there are still plenty of options for students to find connections and get involved, like internships and job fairs and all kinds of virtual events and resources just like this one. The truth is, there are many pathways to completing a degree in CVAD, but maybe that was never your question or concern. Maybe your biggest worry is about after the degree. Life has no guarantees, and I would be skeptical of anyone who tells you otherwise, but you can be sure of this. There are plenty of myths out there about college and about college majors and about careers. And so knowing that so many students and their parents and their support systems of all kinds are often concerned about these questions, we want to tell you why your Uncle Henry is wrong. Whoop. Just kidding.
Uncle Henry is wrong. There's a lot you could do with that degree. About 3 million college students will approach graduation day wondering what the future holds, as if news about uncertain job prospects in a rapidly shifting market wasn't depressing enough. Many will also hear from well-meaning relatives, "What are you going to do with that degree?" Uncle Henry may give a free pass to biology, economics, and chemistry majors, but not to those who pursued creative writing, design, visual arts, or performing arts. Popular wisdom is that there is an oversupply of actors, designers, songwriters, architects, violinists, potters, and poets. Competition is fierce, wages are depressed, and only a few become stars. Many people will assume the design or arts graduate is bitter and beaten down, working in a coffee shop, waiting tables, or painting houses instead of painting their next great masterpiece. It turns out we are victims of what psychologists call cognitive bolstering. We tend to note examples that confirm our pre-existing ideas. The suffering artist story is so pervasive that we pay attention only to examples that confirm the myth. A new survey of nearly 100,000 design and arts graduates tells a different story. The study asked, "Are you glad you went to design or art school? What are you doing now? Did you learn anything that is relevant to your current job? Are you satisfied with your work? Are you still making and presenting art and design?" 90% say that their overall design and art school experience was good or excellent. Nearly 3/4 would attend the same institution again. Part of their satisfaction likely comes from the fact that many graduates end up working in some capacity in their chosen profession. In fact, of those who intend to be designers and artists, 74% do work as professional designers and artists at some point in their careers. Only 58% of biology majors, 56% of accounting majors, and 53% of mechanical engineering majors work in a field related to their degree. Contrary to the popular misconception, design and arts graduates experience relatively low rates of unemployment, a little more than 4% according to the survey, and less than 1% actually become waiters. 21st century employers are looking for creative individuals. A recent IBM poll of 1,500 CEOs around the world revealed that they rank creativity as the #1 leadership quality for the future, even above global thinking and dedication. In fact, if you really want to stick it to Uncle Henry, tell him that people who work in design and the arts report some of the highest levels of job satisfaction among all occupations. True, the median wages of designers and artists may lag behind what some other professions make, which is probably why fewer design and arts graduates are very satisfied with their income. But research shows that higher wages alone have a minimal impact on general happiness. Design and arts graduates may not be rich on average, but the vast majority are gainfully employed, piece together satisfying careers, and would go to design and art school again if given the choice. So, if you're one of the 120,000 plus arts and design graduates each year, look Uncle Henry squarely in the eye and tell him that you're off to join the ranks of the creative class. He'll have to follow your interesting and rewarding career on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook because you may be too busy dancing, writing, performing, producing, designing, building, teaching, or painting for a living to promptly return his call.
We let the credits run because we know somebody took the work to do the art and design in that video. Speaking of connecting on social media, you can find us at cvad.unt.edu as our website, and all of our social media is UNT-CVAD, so at UNT-CVAD, hashtag UNT-CVAD, you'll find us there. And like Leandra said, here's her contact information if you need it, but you can find Leandra and I both on the website if you go to the CVAD directory. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can take your questions and I can see what's going on a little bit. There we go. All right. I know we ran through that really fast, but hopefully we covered some of the questions you already had. Leandra?
Yes, so currently we don't have any questions, but if you all want to go ahead and submit your questions to the Q&A, we can go ahead and start answering them.
Do you require a portfolio for incoming freshmen is a question I already see. And the answer is that no, you do not require a portfolio for incoming freshmen. Like I said, you do not have to submit any portfolio before you start at UNT. So let's talk through this process. You begin as an incoming student, and that's where you get admitted to the university. You do not need a portfolio for admissions. When you come in for admissions, you'll be a pre-major in whatever your area is. So let's take comm design for an example. If you come in and you're intending to do graphic design or user experience, you'd be admitted to UNT and your major would be pre-communication design. You will have a portfolio review, the first of 2, at the end of your first semester. It is tied to the required courses that you already have, and we will your faculty walk you through the process. Okay, so no one's leaving you alone. We'll give you lots more information, but yes, your first review comes at the end of your first fall. We have students preparing for that review right now, but you do not need a portfolio before you get admitted. And the portfolio you submit at the end of that first fall in communication design isn't just like a portfolio of all the work you've done. It is a portfolio that is actually more like a specific assignment. And you are working on skills and tools to build that in that communication design class that you take your very first fall. So that's how the review process works or begins to work for communication design. But our education students won't do any of that until they're almost juniors. So very different process for some of these majors. Next question.
Yes, the next question is, what are some minors offered?
All of the studio art emphasis concentration areas offer a minor. You can see the list and download a PDF about the minors on our website, cvad.unt.edu. We also offer a minor in art history. There are no design minors, none. You cannot minor in fashion design, interior design, or communication design. That is because those classes are already full with those majors, and we don't have room to accommodate those minors. But interdisciplinary art and design studies has space for you to take a few of the beginning design classes.
Next question. How many of the degree programs are 100% online?
None.
The next
We
question
are
is,
offering, I will caveat that, we are offering a lot of remote delivery classes under the current conditions. That is not intentional. We have a beautiful, state-of-the-art, very new building on campus, and wonderful studio spaces that our students are even able to reserve and use even now in the time of social distancing and face mask wearing and all of those things. So, no, but none of our programs are designed to be 100% online.
the next question is, I'm a high school senior and I have a total of 33 credit hours, sad face. So does that mean I basically did nothing? They are all, gen ed courses.
Of course you did not do nothing, and that's not what I said. What I said is we want to look at exactly how those apply. If they're all gen ed courses, chances are you will come in with your general education or your core complete. That's the university core. So your English, your math, your history, your political science, all of those things, you may be done. But if you're going into communication design, fashion design, or interior design, because of the way your classes are structured, and they are highly sequential and sequenced. In other words, they have to be taken in order, and one class is the prerequisite to the next one. You may want to look at a double major, adding a minor, something like that to help you be a full-time student, or you don't have to be a full-time student. But it really is going to depend on what you took and how. I'll give you a really great example. I took a history class, AP, when I was a student way back in the day. And it was a world history class. And I still see lots of students bring in world history as an AP credit. It was so great. I loved that class. I loved my teacher. It was fantastic. World history isn't part of the university core. It will work as an elective, but it's not going to fulfill a specific requirement. US history does. We can talk through that. And frankly, we do it immediately at orientation for our incoming students. I hope that answered that question fully. What else do we got, Leandra?
Yes. What process needs to be done to transfer any AP/dual credit to UNT?
Your AP scores should be sent to UNT. You can see how to do that on the UNT website. And your dual enrollment is basically like transfer credit. You are correct. Dual enrollment being those college level courses that you took through your high school. So you would need to make sure you request your transcript from wherever that dual enrollment course was offered. I know that like Denton Independent School District, DISD, does some of those classes through TWU instead of UNT. Some of them are through UNT. The UNT ones you wouldn't have to transfer to us, but the TWU ones you would. Make sense?
Next question. Can art classes be taken with the technical communication major?
You can as a minor, and there are options there. It would just kind of depend on what you want to do with your tech comm degree. There are tech comm classes that count as the freshman or the general education university core requirements. And some of our students do take those instead of the English composition. They'll take technical communication or technical writing. But that's something you would definitely can talk about with your academic advisor. Again, we usually don't talk a lot about minors at orientation. I'm going to be honest. Our goal is to get you through that first semester, but definitely a conversation we can continue.
The next question is, would I be able to transfer with an art associate's degree?
Okay, so let's talk about associate's degrees. Associate's degree is typically thought of as the 2-year degree. There's an associates of arts or an associates of science. They have nothing to do with art or science typically. They have to do with language, foreign language, and some other things. There's also an associate of applied science or applied arts, things like that. That is a very different type of degree. Anytime you see applied in there, that is can be a very different animal, because those associates of applied science tend to not have all of the general education or the university core already required. Of course, you can transfer to us with an associate's degree, but I can't tell you and guarantee to you that that's going to mean you did 2 years and did an associate's degree and you have 2 years left at CVAD. That's probably not the case. And I know for certain it is not the case with those design programs, where frankly, it is not typical that there are transfer credits that are equivalent to those design specific courses. You're basically coming in as a transfer student. And Leandra and I are definitely happy to answer your questions before you get here.
The next question is, what do students major in if they are not admitted into their desired program?
Okay, I'm so glad you asked, because here's the thing. I didn't talk about it, but I knew you would. And I want to be clear. There are multiple options for what you can do if you don't get admitted to the program of your first choice. Honestly, we have lots of students who come in thinking they're going to major in one thing, and they decide that they're not going to major in that. They go, this is not what I thought it was going to be. And that's okay, because you're learning and that's what it's there for. That being said, comm design, communication design is our most competitive program. Graphic design is the most competitive program. I'm just going to tell you right now. Those students who end up not majoring in communication design, some of them major in studio art, maybe photography, maybe printmaking, maybe new media art, all kinds of options there. Some of them move into that interdisciplinary art and design studies option, sometimes design management, sometimes the open track option, which requires students to choose a minor, and it has to be outside of the College of Visual Art and Design. So a student in IADS, Interdisciplinary Art and Design Studies, who wants to also do technical communication, which somebody already brought up, you would be doing an art degree and a tech communication piece all woven together. And look at that. You didn't have to double major. You didn't have to have an extra minor. And it's still all the same number of overall credits that you need to get a bachelor's degree. All bachelor's degrees are 120 credits, friends. And then everything else is about the ratio. You didn't know there was math. There is math. There you go.
Erin, I'm going to ask you 2 questions because they're fairly similar. So bear with me.
Okay.
To be an art therapist, I was thinking I would need to major in psych and minor in art. Is there a minor you would recommend for this? And then the second question, which is from a different student, is it common or possible at UNT for psych majors to partner with studio art or interdisciplinary art for a minor or double major, parentheses, for possible art therapy masters later? So
yes, art therapy, art and psych. Let's talk about this elephant in the room. Folks, recent statistics were that 20% of students in the United States who get a bachelor's degree in any given year, 20% get it in psychology. Set yourself apart. Don't be one of the 20%. Be somebody who does something different. And if you want to do art therapy, licensure is going to be part of this conversation. So if you're going to stay in Texas, what students usually do is they actually need the art piece, but they also need a certain amount of of those psychology classes in order to meet the licensure requirements. And we have students who do this through the Interdisciplinary Art and Design Studies program. And you can see more. They talk about art therapy specifically on our website when you go to the information about IADS. You can also do this as a major minor combination. You could major in psych and minor in an art field, one of those things I mentioned. You could also flip it and do it the other way around. You could do a studio art with a minor in psychology. But the nice thing about IADS, again, is that it does that and you just have 120 credits. Same number as both of those. Most minors are 18 credits. All majors, all degrees tend to be about 120. There's on occasion something like 122, but that is not the case for these programs we were just talking about. So it depends on what's the most efficient for you and what is your priority, but all of those options would lead towards art therapy. So again, as the Buddha says, best career advice, 2,000 years old plus, friends. Many paths up the mountain, lots of ways to get there.
Thank you, Erin.
You're welcome.
So the next question is, can you still be successful in comm design if you haven't taken any art classes in high school?
Yeah, speaking directly to the point I was making before. If you haven't taken any art classes in high school, okay. We're going to give you the tools you need when you start here at UNT. You're going to take those foundations classes. You're going to take Introduction to Comm Design. We're going to talk about it with you, and we'll go from there.
What are some examples of different jobs that you can get with an art degree?
What job do you want to get? The truth is, lots of things. And it's going to depend a little bit on you, my friends. What experiences are you cultivating? What, internships or student employment or jobs you may have had in the past you're looking for? I'm going to give you a big secret. I don't have an art degree. I have a philosophy degree. I use it every day. I've never been unemployed. And I do academic advising. The truth of the matter is, one major does not equal one career. It really depends. But we have a wonderful team of folks here at UNT, not just as academic advisors and recruiters and admissions folks, but a great group of people in our career center who can talk through this information with you. Your faculty are going to start having conversations with you about your transferable skills and what you're working on right from the beginning. It's woven into our foundations classes so that you will learn how to talk about the skills you have as a graduate of CVAD.
Erin, do you want to mention any websites they can go to?
Oh, yeah. So artcareerproject.com is a good one. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, ONET, the Occupational Outlook Handbook, those are all kind of the same thing. It's not a pretty website. It's not a pretty website because it's put out by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, but it's a super helpful, tons of data website. Those are great places to look to start, but start at our cvad.unt.edu. We've got a connection to the Career Center, to Leandra, and we'll get you hooked up with some additional resources there. But honestly, there are a lot of options. Don't wait. Go do a job search right now. One of my favorite pieces of advising homework to give students is go find 3 dream jobs. Go see what they say the required, what the preferred qualifications are for that job. Go find somebody who has that job. And then I want you to compare it to somebody else who has that job or a job with the same description and see what their preferred qualifications are. And you know what you'll find? No 2 people did it the same, friends. And that's okay. Good news. Lots of ways to get this done. Okay. What else we got, Leandra? How we're doing on time and things?
It's 10:38 and the session is over at 10:50. So we have about 10 minutes. I see some questions over like transferring. So if you want to go ahead and take down my email, go ahead and email me those transfer questions and I can get back to you on that. But I think a good question is, what is new media art?
Okay, I see a couple of them in there. That's awesome. New media art is, it's a little bit hard to describe. I'd encourage you to go check out the website where the faculty talk about new media art. But let's be clear, it is not media arts. UNT has a department of media arts, which is basically radio, TV, and film production. That is not new media art. New media art is also not animation. We do not have a degree in animation at UNT. I'm just going to be blunt and I'm going to say we don't have it. Not because I don't want you here, friends, but because if that's what you're looking for, that's not what we do. That's not fair to tell you, an expectation that we don't have. But the truth is, new media art incorporates lots of things. Can you do a little film in new media art? You bet. Do some of our students do a little bit of a moving picture and sound and maybe animation is part of that? Yep. But new media art is often, I like to think of it as very technology driven. It is very interdisciplinary and across mediums. So we see a lot of students who are looking at different ways to incorporate maybe more traditional art with some kind of technological piece. And it often is something that incorporates avant-garde, that performance art space, all of those things I would kind of put under that new media art. It's not a catch-all per se, but it is something that is very, it defies the traditional medium-driven art concept. Does that help? I hope so.
Yes, and we have a great question here.
Okay.
Is it common for people to come into this program and work on traditional animation or a character design? If not, what would I go for specifically?
Okay, so animation, character design, you can be a creative director or a creative or a concept artist with a degree that is not animation. As a matter of fact, most of them don't. They are not animators. Animators are the people who make the hair move. Okay? When we're really excited about the beautiful animation and everything from Kiki's Delivery Service to Monsters Inc. to whatever, right? And we think, oh my gosh, look at the way that moves. Look at the beautiful colors. Look at all of those things. The animation part is the actual doing of the thing. People who are doing the creative direction, people who are doing the concept art are often studio art trained folks. They're doing drawing and painting. They're doing new media art. They're doing all kinds of things. They are not going to be strictly animators. Totally something to consider. That doesn't mean that you might not want to do take a computer science class if you get an opportunity to do so. Doesn't mean you aren't going to maybe want to look at what skills you want to build there. But you should know that is not the only route to getting that kind of a career. If you want an animation degree, there are other Texas universities that have them. I don't work for them, but we'd be happy to kind of give you a quick, there are some really great places to search for that. And Leandra and I can help you talk through that.
So we have a couple of questions about internship and summer programs. I think that kind of goes hand in hand. So I'm not going to ask the specific questions, but can you touch on that?
Sure. Internships are actually required for a number of our programs, not for studio art, but internships are required for interior design, and a lot of our students in fashion design and comm design are working in internships. Frankly, our students in graphic design are required to take an internship. Many of our students get hired from their internship experience. And that's why in recent years, the communication design program sometimes has 100% job placement rate for our seniors. And that's pretty exciting. But like I said, it's also our most competitive program. So bear that in mind. Those internship experiences could be across the board. And students have done those here locally and Dallas, Fort Worth, and throughout Texas. But we also have students who've done them in LA and New York, and students who've even gone to the study abroad experiences and looked at working with folks there. We have students who've gone to Germany, to Provence, France, students who go to Dundee, Scotland, which if you know, that's fashion and that's a big thing. Students who are working with a sister institution we partner with in Florence, Italy, called Sarissa, S-R-I-S-A. And those students can do even a whole semester abroad, not just a study abroad experience. So lots of options that are out there and lots of ways for us to talk about that. But that's usually something, I'm going to be blunt, internships usually don't come until your junior or senior year. Your study abroad experience, though, could be as soon, if you want to do a traditional summer experience, could be as soon as between your freshman and your sophomore year, or between your sophomore year and your junior year. I encourage you to do it whenever you can. We know it is not cheap. We know it is a thing. It's also the cheapest it's ever going to be for you. You don't usually get to go to France or London or any of these places the way that you would in a study abroad program, but it's still not insignificant. So talk to us now about how we can help, and know that scholarships do exist for students who want to engage in study abroad.
Okay, I'm gonna say this is the last questions because we have 5 minutes left. I'm not gonna read the question, but if you're undecided about your major and what you want to do, how can students navigate that? Can they take courses as electives and then kind of easy on and mosey on to their major, or how would they navigate that, Erin?
I would tell you that if you are thinking about majoring in a CVAD program, talk to us from the beginning. Because changing your major 2 semesters in is a little bit harder. But what we can do is get you a good balanced schedule your first and second semester here at UNT to help you navigate making that decision. I always think that my job as an academic advisor and the job of the academic advisors who work in our office is to make sure you have the most choices for the most amount of time. Let me repeat that you have the most choices for the most amount of time. You know what choices those are, you know why you need to make them, and you know when the choice runs out. So if that's what you're asking is, I'm debating between photography and who knows what, right? You come in, you come to orientation, you meet with your advisor for the first time, and what we're going to do is we're going to talk you through what it means to investigate that major in CVAD and be a pre-major with us, and what courses you might be taking that would fulfill a university core requirement that would help you investigate the other option that you're looking at. I see students all the time who come in and they're like, I'm thinking about business. Well, a lot of business classes aren't something that you'll take until after you finish the university core. So we can talk through those options. We might talk through the fact that if you did interdisciplinary art and design studies in design management, you could start as a pre-communication design major, change to IADS in design management. You're required to take a marketing or a management minor in that degree. And so maybe you don't even need to make the choice you thought you needed to make. It's often the case, I find. So lots of ways to navigate this. The best thing you can do as incoming students before you get to that orientation piece, talk to someone here at UNT if you plan to come to UNT. Don't ask the people at UTD. Don't ask the people at TWU. Ask the people at UNT about UNT. And if you have questions about those other places, ask them. They're the experts. The second thing is do some research. Go check out our website. Print the curriculum guides and mark it up and go, this is interesting to me. Search the catalog if you want to. But truthfully, ask some questions. Think about what you want to do. The best determination of success for college students in my almost 20 years now of experience working in higher ed, they ask questions, they think about what they're doing, and they just do more than the bare minimum. Doesn't matter. I love CVAD. I love art students. It's awesome. But I'm going to tell you the secret, no matter what you choose, that's it. That last thing I said, don't do the bare minimum. Get in there, make the most of your time. It is your moment. Make it what you want. That's what I got for you, friends.
And you finished right on time, Erin. That was an amazing closing. Wish my 18-year-old self had gotten that speech from you. I definitely.
Mine too. And everybody learns at least one lesson the hard way. That's okay. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, that is true. Hey, well, everyone, we want to thank you again for coming and joining us today. We had over 40 people at our max capacity for this session, which is amazing. We know you could have done anything with your Saturday morning, but you spent it here with us at UNT and UNT CVAD in particular. If you have any further questions specifically about the application process, we do have admissions officers available throughout the day, as well as we have virtual tours taking place throughout the day as well. This presentation has been recorded and will be available online. I know a couple people were having trouble seeing the screen, but we did record and it will be available within the week for you to view online. So hopefully you'll be able to catch it then. Leandra has dropped her email address in the chat. That is leandra.pope@unt.edu if you would like to follow up with her with any remaining questions. But thank you all so much for being here with us today, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday.